What's up, guys? This is Alec with a deck profile for you guys. This is Performapals. You might remember I previously had Paul upload a Performapal profile, and I had him take it down. Why? Because I rushed into it. I didn't think I did a very good job, and I just wanted to take my time, get in a better state of mind where I could deliver a better profile.
Fine. Finally get this out of the way.
Let's hop right in. So he's the heart and soul of your deck. Triple Pendulum Sorcerer. You know how he works. When he's Pendulum summoned, he pops 2 cards on your field. He searches 2 Performapals with different names. So, of course, at least in the way I play it, you want to get Lizard Draw and Turtle. Depending on if you have one or the other, you can get someone else. But if you don't have them, they're great to go into, because when the optimal way to do this is you play your Turtle, then you play Lizard Draw. Lizard Draw being activated activates Turtle's effect when another Performapal is activated. He draws. Then you activate Lizard Draw's effect by tributing him because you have another Performapal. You draw off that, so you draw 2 cards off of just summoning one sorcerer. This actually will come in handy later for when I talk about some optimal situations. You get a lot of plus just off this alone, and this is only off of 3 cards, because you need your scale and him, and you end up drawing 2, and this can actually become a lot more. All right, I'm gonna go to some of my more ideal scales real quick. Odd Eyes Unicorn, Odd Eyes Light Phoenix. Yes, that means I run Sky Iris. This one's the most important one. It's our high scale. You really don't want to run out of it. So if your opponent's banishing your cards, that can be truly terrible. Their effects don't really matter. They're just a high and a low scale. I mean, I've used Odd Eyes Unicorn to close out games. Odd Eyes Unicorn says that if an Odd Eyes monster is attacking, you can give it the attack of a face-up Performapal monster you control. So, if you're swinging with a 2500, Odd Eyes Pendulum Dragon, and you have a nice beefy Performapal set up next to him, some like 2000 attack, that Odd Eyes can be swinging with like 4500, doing double damage if it hits a monster. That can close out a game real quick. Double Parrot Trio. Parrot Trio's like a worse wisdom mind. The idea is if you have either a Performapal, Magician, or Odd Eyes monster in other scale, he can become a 7 and not a 2. It's an optional thing, so it can be whatever you want it to be. And in this deck, I mean, you're usually going to have that situation. So, a lot of kind of good utility. His monster effect is also a float when he's destroyed by battle. So, he's kind of a safe guy to search if you just don't know what to search into. In this deck, you do a lot of drawing, a lot of searching. So, Parrot Trio is kind of there as a safe monster. Then Double Dag Daggerman. Okay. Dag Daggerman, he's our 5. He's a warrior. He allows me to go into Brave Eyes. Dag has 2 effects, one Pendulum, one monster effect, and honestly, neither of them are really amazing. His Pendulum effect lets you pick up a Performapal out the grave and add to hand. That it can be pretty important since you do end up making these monsters. You do and doing pitch effects. So sometimes they do end up in grave, and you do run some non-pendulums. Well, it doesn't mean a whole lot, not really, but it's something that can help. And his pendulum effect is monster effect. When he's pendulum summoned, you can pitch a Performapal from hand and draw. That's what it is, plain and simple. I really don't use that too often, but it is something you can use. It's just another little tool. But I guess the most important thing here is, you see how he's a 2? That is the scale you want. That 2. That means you can summon your 3s multiple times. You saw Parrot Trio, you saw Lizard Draw. Just letting me go into more of my deck. He is one of my preferred low scales. Well, I guess him and Parrot Trio. Then, of course, you can't talk Performapals without Skullcrabat Joker. He was so good, they had to limit him. He can search out virtually anything in your deck. He searches Performapals, Odd Eyes, and Magicians. So the only thing bad about him is he has to be normal summoned to get that effect. But things like Hearing can get you to reuse that effect. Then one Performapal King Bear. He's actually the last of my Performapal Pendulums. So yeah, he's a 6. He's kind of a weird guy. He has that slow odd eye search effect where he searches on the end phase, but he searches like level 7 monsters. So little awkward. You don't really need to search odd eyes that badly in this deck, since you have a lot of ways to do it. But he's just another way. What he's really here for is his monster effects, where he can't be destroyed by spell or traps, and he gains 100 attack for every Performapal monster you control. So he can be really beefy, and he can put your opponent in a weird position if they can't swing over him, since he can't be destroyed by spell or traps. And a scale of 7 isn't great, but if you're in a pinch, you can make it work. The last pal, Second Donkey. So Second Donkey's kind of our worst Skullcrabat Joker. The idea here is he sends a Performapal from deck to grave, but if you have 2 monsters in your Pendulum zones, it doesn't matter what monsters they are, or even if they're a decent scale. As long as you have them, he can, instead of sending it to grave, add it to your hand. In this deck, you're usually going to have that. So Second Donkey is rarely a dead card. Alright, and now I'll go into, you probably expected him, Luster Pendulum. I mean, there's Master Pendulum too, but Master Pendulum's only here because of all the different ways you can search Draco Slayers, so he's got a second one in. So, mainly here for the extra deck options, plain and simple really, but he does have good use in a Pendulum deck, because he pops a Pendulum card, searches a copy of it. You can make some cool combos with Guiding Ariadne, who also run at 2. So yes, that means I run counter traps. Guiding Ariadne is probably like one of the linchpins of my deck or my strategy as a whole. In the Pendulum zone, it says you don't pay the cost for a counter trap. Well, let me rephrase that. You don't pay the pitch cost from your hand, and you don't pay a life point cost. If there's any other cost, you still have to pay that. But those two you don't have to pay if you have Guiding Ariadne. Its monster effect is when it's destroyed, you pull 3 counter traps from your deck, and your opponent chooses one to add to your hand. It's not random. They actually get to choose it. So what's cool is just the idea that you can have a Guiding Ariadne out, play Luster Pendulum targets Ariadne, pops Ariadne will get its effect. So you get a counter trap, and he searches an Ariadne to hand. So you have your counter trap, and you won't have to pay a cost for it. It's really simple, but it can put you in a really good position, because if you've played a Pendulum deck, it's very easy to get monsters on board, but it can be very hard to protect them. Then 2 Odd Eyes. You expect him to be here. He's a slow searcher, hits hard, can hit very hard. I don't run him at 3 because you don't really want to open him, since you can search him in every way conceivable. So 2 is fine. You can change it up if you want. Then the tools of the deck, I call them tools because they're not really here for any other reason other than their effects. Kieran being probably the most annoying Pendulum monster in the game, and Archfiend Eccentric helping you just kind of slowly lockpick difficult boards. You know, if it's in the monster zone, it pops a monster. If it's in the Pendulum zone, it pops a spell or trap. Very good tools to have in just about any Pendulum deck. Alright, I'm in the spells. So triple Sky Iris and a Terraforming. It's so important to get this card. It allows you to get combos going, because even if you end up with just 1 card, Sky Iris can make that into 2 cards depending on what it is. It protects your scales from your opponent, and if you're playing Pendulum decks, that's a very big worry, is your opponent getting rid of your scales, things like Twin Twisters. Well, Sky Iris protects them from that, so your opponent not to hit your Sky Iris first. I play a triple Ignite Reload, because you will have some soft hands. I've had times, because I play traps and whatnot, where I've only opened 1 Pendulum monster, and you can't, because the monkey board's gone, so you really can't do a whole lot with that anymore. But Ignite Reload is cool. You send any number of Pendulum monsters from your hand, you draw for that 1 monster and this card, so it's that monster plus 1. So you essentially replace the Ignite Reload out your hand. You don't lose a whole lot. The only downside is it is a gamble, because you are giving up a card. Then Pot of Riches. It's just a one of, because Godly, this card can come up at awkward times. But it's here at one for really like the one play. And that's anytime I open up a scale, sorcerer, and it, or maybe I might draw into it, depending. The idea here is you Pendulum summon out sorcerer, you pop your 2 cards, you search out Lizard, draw, get turtle. Then you activate your turtle, activate Lizard, draw. This draws, and then you activate this effect, this draws. So you may have drawn into it now, but regardless, because of just that sequence, you have just enough cards in your extra deck to pull this effect off. Because you had two Pendulum cards, they both got destroyed. Then you added a Lizard Draw who destroyed himself for his own effect. That gives you 3. That's all you need for Pot of Riches. You send 3 Pendulum monsters from your extra deck or grave, shuffle them back to the deck, draw 2. So you can get some crazy, crazy advantage. Then 1 Odd Eyes Fusion, just because Sky Iris needs a couple more targets in my deck. And it gives me more extra deck options. It's it's like a win more card, but it gives you access to one of the strongest Odd Eyes monsters, so why not? Now I'm in my trap lineup. You know I have to have them because I do play Guardian Ariadne. The Solemn Brigade. There's kind of enough said for them. They're Solemns. And then my personal favorite, Ultimate Providence. You may not be completely familiar with Ultimate Providence. The idea is if an effect is activated, depending on what type of effect it is, whether it's a monster, spell, or trap, the cost for this card is pitching that same type of card. So if my opponent activates a trap, I pitch a trap. If they activate a spell, that's how it works. But Guardian Ariadne is great because it says I don't have to pay that cost. So if I have Guardian Ariadne on the field, Ultimate Providence's effect is now, if your opponent activates an effect, negate it. Beautiful, simple, and people tend to underestimate this card because they're not used to it. As I said before, you show your opponent 3 counter traps. They get to pick one. A lot of times, they're going to know they don't want you to have these, but sometimes they'll think, man, let's give them this Ultimate Providence. It's probably the worst of the bunch. But they don't know if you're holding another Guiding Ariadne. They don't know if you're going to draw into one. So this is potentially the strongest out of the 3. And that's really it for my main deck. I'm just going to go into my extra deck right now. My extra deck is not really it's not a full extra because this is a deck where you can kind of do whatever you want with it, especially in the extra. Space is a lot of room. So because of our Draco Slayers, you have access to these 3. Majester, Dynaster, and Ignister. So I'll go one at a time. Majester takes 2 level 4 Pendulum monsters. It has a slow search effect where it just searches out a Pendulum from your deck on the end phase. It's good and bad at the same time because it happens on the end phase, so you can't really use the card, but you're still searching a Pendulum. It can be pretty great. Dynaster protects your Pendulum monsters in your zones and the Pendulum monsters on the field. So just another layer of protection if you need it. And Ignister Prominence, you pop one of yours to pop one of theirs. That's kind of the idea here. And now it specifies that it has to be the Pendulum monster. It has to pop one of your Pendulum, or it has to pop a Pendulum to shuffle a card back into the deck. But so if your opponent has a Pendulum monster, you can hit their Pendulum monster and shuffle a card. So I mean that's kind of one of the biggest problems I think people have with it was because of that effect. Oh, I should mention they all have effects that get Draco Slayers out of the grave, deck, hand, wherever. Dynaster will get a Draco Slayer out the deck and say it can't be used for synchro summons. I want to say Dynaster picks them out the grave, and yeah, Majester pulls them out the extra deck. Then I'll go into my fusion monsters because I do play that Odd Eyes Fusion. I can use quite a few different fusions. Some don't even require it. The Pendulum Dragon Trio, Rune Eyes, Brave Eyes, Beast Eyes. He's a contact fusion with a Dark Dragon and a Beast. He's probably the best out of these 3. But he burns when he... What? Oh, sorry. When Beast Eyes will burn for the attack of the Beast monster you use, which it could be inconsequential, But we do run second Donkey, and his attack is 1,000. So if you do end up fusing with an Odd Eyes and a second Donkey, you get this guy who burns for 1,000. Then there's Brave Eyes. He takes a warrior monster, and we recently got Daggerman, so we can make the thing. He's kind of the worst Utopia Beyond. He puts your opponent's monster to 0, but then he says he's the only one that can attack. Yeah, that's just awkward. Then you have Rune Eyes, who, It takes a spellcaster, and it can attack multiple times depending on the level of the spellcaster you use. But I think all my spellcasters are 4, so it only ever gets 2 attacks. That's really about it for Rune Eyes. Now, the real reason why you even run Odd Eyes Fusion is Vortex Dragon. It's so powerful, so useful to go into. When it's summoned, it can pop. I'm pretty sure it says it pops that monster. Yeah. Oh, it bounces it. My bad. It bounces the attack pushing monster on your opponent's side of the field. So it instantly can deal with a problem monster. But then also, when an effect is activated, it can shuffle a face-up pendulum out of your extra deck into the deck and negate it once per turn, but it can be very crucial. Then just some quick, I just got some examples here. Just as, because you can make 3s, I just pulled one out. Grand Pulse, hit spells or traps. You can make 4s, these are very easy to do. So I put Castel, because he's, kind of like the most generic rank 4, probably the best, subjectively. Then Odd Eyes Absolute, because I do have Odd Eyes, and yeah, you might be thinking, but you only have 2, you make it once, it's dead. But Odd Eyes Absolute, it gives you back your Odd Eyes, because it negates, you overlay with your Odd Eyes, it negates an attack, it detaches that Odd Eyes to do it, but then it says it'll special summon Odd Eyes from your grave. So you really don't lose your Odd Eyes materials when you make Absolute. And then when Absolute dies, it special summons a Odd Eyes monster from the extra deck. So virtually anything, because it doesn't specify whether it has to be face up or not. So that's really it for my profile. I really suggest that more people just go ahead and give it a try. If you didn't play it because it was too meta at the time, or maybe you just forgot about this deck. This deck is really, really cheap, and it does really well for that price. How would you put it, Paul? Value for profit?
Underrated.
Underrated.
Value for money. I don't know.
For as much as you can pay for these cards, almost everything in here has been reprinted. So it's really cheap. You can get some really good results out of it. And I suggest, if you have the cards and you might just pick it up and give it a try. Nothing in here is, this isn't a cookie cutter build. You can do whatever you want with this.
All right. So I guess what would they do if maybe they wanted to find more Yu-Gi-Oh videos? Subscribe or something like that? What?
I mean, I guess you could subscribe to Team Samurai. I mean,
thanks, Alec.